Hello, welcome to Nana's Southern Kitchen. Today we're going to be making a red velvet pound cake with a cream cheese filling. My aunt, this was one of her favorite cakes, and she liked to call it Tunnel of Love because she loved that middle. We're going to start off by making the tunnel or cheesecake swirl to go in the middle. We're going to take 12 ounces of cream cheese, which is 1 pack. Plus half of another one, cut it at the 4-ounce line. And combine that with a 1/3 cup granulated sugar, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and we're going to put that in the stand mixer. Be sure you lock it down using this knob here. You start off low or you'll have sugar everywhere. I start with the stir or the 1 button, and then gradually to 2. Let it beat a minute so it gets all smooth. Bump it up just 1 more. And then I'm going to stop my mixer, unlock it, take a spatula, scrape the sides and the bottom of the bowl. See how nice and creamy and fluffy the cream cheese is? That's what you want. I'm going to lock my bowl back in place. And I'm going to add 1 egg, room temperature. Be sure all your ingredients are room temperature or it won't mix right. You'll have a gummy, dense cake. I'm going to mix that together. Grab my towel. Vanilla. While it's growing, I'm going to add in a teaspoon of vanilla extract. I'm going to mix this until there's no more lumps in it. Now I'm turning my mixer up to 6 with the whip attachment. Now I can turn it on up to 8. If you don't have a stand mixer, you could also do this with a hand mixer. Okay, that's nice and done. I'm going to turn it off, unlock my mixer, remove my whisk, get all the goodies off into the bowl, unlock my bowl from the stand, and we're going to put this in another bowl while we make the batter. The reason I make this first is so I don't have to stop and wash my mixer parts so much because of the red food coloring in the cake we're about to make. Now we're going to set that to the side, put our bowl back on our mixer. To make the cake, we're going to start off with 3½ cups all-purpose flour. Now, when you mix flour, it's very important that you just spoon the flour into the cup. Don't dip your cup in the flour. That'll compact it, and you'll have way too much flour, and you end up with a dry cake. Once you get the cup filled up, you take the flat side of a butter knife and just gently scrape off the extra. There's one. There's two. There's three. And 1/4. Move the flour to the side. So I goofed up. I had to take my flour out my mixer to put in a bowl to the side because I should have creamed all my ingredients together first. We're going to need a cup of butter. Each stick is 1/2 cup, so you don't have to get messy trying to measure it out. I have one in the bowl. Here's my second one. I'm using how much is that? A 1/4 cup vegetable oil, a 1.5 cups of sugar, and we're going to put it in there and lock our mixer. Always lock your mixer so you don't have a mess flying everywhere. And we're going to cream it together on number 4 for 5 to 7 minutes. It's important to use that timetable at least 5 minutes so it's fluffy and not dense. Okay, it's been about 5 minutes now. It's all nice and fluffy and ready. So I'm going to turn off my mixer, unlock it. Get all that goodness off and put it back on there. And we're going to add our eggs. Remember, they're room temperature. That's about to fall out. One at a time. See how nice and fluffy and light in color that is? That's what you want. So you add an egg. Mix it up till it's mixed in really well. When that gets incorporated, add another egg. That's our 3rd egg right here. Our 4th egg. Turn it up for just a minute to let all those eggs get mixed up. Then turn it back down. Add your 5th and final egg. And then we're going to add a tablespoon of vanilla extract. I have a 1/2 tablespoon, so I'm going to use 2 to make 1. That's 1/2 and 1 tablespoon. You're going to let that mix well. At this point, I like to stop my mixer and scrape down the sides to be sure there's nothing stuck on the side or in the bottom. That's all mixed really well. And I got it on my hand, which is fine. You can't bake and stay clean. I always make a mess. Let that go again. I'm going to wash my hands because the main ingredient in any good Southern recipe is clean hands. All right, now we're going to stop our mixer. And we're going to add in 2/3 cup of room temperature sour cream. Let that mix up till it's good and married together. I have my mixer on a setting 2, which would be low on a normal hand mixer. And then I'm going to slowly start adding my buttermilk to this. It's going to be 1 1/4 cups of buttermilk. And at this point, if your mix starts looking curdled, it's okay. It's going to come back together, I promise. I just want to show you. It looks gloopy and curdled, almost like real fine cottage cheese at this point, but that's totally fine. Now we're going to add red food coloring. You could use 1 ounce of liquid red food color, but I prefer to use the food gel because it takes less and it makes a prettier color, in my opinion. I order it from Amazon. We're going to use 1/2 teaspoon of this coloring. This is a 1/4 teaspoon measure. So here's 1/4. And 1 more 1/4 makes 1/2. See how I level it off in the container to keep from making a mess? Because this stuff stains. It's horrible to get up. Your kitchen will look like a murder scene if you're not careful with it. Okay. Now I'm going to mix that in on about number 2 or low setting. And don't be alarmed if your mixture just looks pink at this point because of all the butter and the food color. We haven't put the magic ingredient in there yet to make it turn red. Okay. Now we're going to take that 3 1/2 cups flour that we measured out. And we're going to add in 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. That's part of the magic ingredient to make it red. And to rise. And we're going to add our baking powder into that. We have 2 1/2 teaspoons of baking powder. And we have a 1/4 cup of cocoa that I pre-measured in a bag because I don't like big old clouds of cocoa in my kitchen. See how pink though? That's what I wanted you to see. It looks like little white dots in the paint. That's perfectly fine. Now I'm going to take and slowly spoon. I'm going to take and mix this together. Then I'm going to add about 1/4 teaspoon of salt to that. I'm going to mix that in. And you're going to slowly add this to your mix. Because like I say, you'll have a big dust cloud in your kitchen. I do it about 1/3 at the time. I go 1/3 of my flour. Let that mix in. Well, that's combined. I'm going to add a teaspoon of vinegar. Just plain white distilled vinegar. And I'm going to add another 1/3 of my flour mix. And I can tell at this point that's not going to be red enough for me. So I'm going to take my food color and I'm going to add some more gel in there. It's easier to add to than take away though, so start little and you can always add more. We're getting there slowly but surely. Okay, y'all, I think that's about like the color I want. I counted as I did because some of my spoons wasn't really full. All total, you have about 1.5 teaspoons of the food coloring gel in there. See what I mean about murder scene? It looks like I've cut up my hands. And once you get that, you add the last 1/3 of your flour mixture. And now your batter's ready to go in the pan. Now that it's all mixed up in the mixer, it's time to get your pan ready. You're going to need a bundt pan. And you can use something like Baker's Joy or aerosol spray, but I don't like aerosols. So I make my own pan greaser, as I call it, pan paint. There'll be a video soon for that. Just take and paint that pan up really good, getting all the nooks and crannies. Be generous with it. Don't worry, it's not going to leave any streaks of flour or anything on your cake if you mix it up really well. I mean, really get down in there, see. You don't want anything stuck in there. especially since we're putting a cheesecake filling in the middle of it. It's better to spend a couple minutes doing this than 30 minutes trying to unstick your cake and then it falls apart. And the reason I call it pan paint, you can see it looks white where I've painted it. This also helps you tell where you've got your pan greased at. And go ahead and grease that top little thing there in case it cooks up and above it. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure is what my mama always told me. Okay, we have our pan painted up nice and pretty there. Now it's time to get the cake in the pan and get it cooking. Unlock your mixer. Lift it up. Take your whip off. If you notice my spatulas are a little stained up, please don't judge me. I made hundreds of red velvet cakes, and these are the spatulas I use because it will stain your spatulas. You're going to put approximately half of your batter into your pan. Rotating it as you put batter in. A little bit more over here. Okay. Take your spatula, smooth that batter out. That way it cooks evenly and you don't have air pockets in it. Then we're going to take our cheesecake filling we made at the very beginning of the video, and we're going to scoop it in here. But you want to be careful. Do not get it on the edges of the pan, or it's going to cook out instead of fluff up. Nobody likes a leaky cake. Just put it in globs here and there all around. See, don't be a me. Don't get it right there. If you do, just kind of. Okay, once you get it all in there, take your spatula and kind of smooth it around there again, being careful not to get it the edge. That way you have a bite of the cheesecake in every bite of your pound cake. Then you take the rest of your batter and put it on top. I forgot to mention it's preferable you have a 12-cup bundt pan to make this cake in. 10-cup may overflow on you. Cover all that cheesecake filling. It don't got to be pretty at this point because we're going to straighten it out. There we go. Take and smooth it. And then you want to take your pan and tap it on a hard surface a couple times to make any air bubbles you may have gotten in there come to the top. And then we're going to take it and put it in a 350-degree preheated oven for 60 to 70 minutes. Now we're going to make the glaze for the top of the cake. We're going to put in a half a stick of butter, which is 4 tablespoons, or a quarter of a cup. And we're going to put in a cup of powdered sugar. There's a half a cup. And here's 1 cup with a teaspoon of vanilla. You can measure it if you wish. And a pinch of salt. I put 2 pinches just so it won't be too sweet. Now you lock down your mixer, and we're going to cream that together. Once that's good and mixed together, we're going to take half a block, which would be 4 ounces of cream cheese. And we're going to throw that in the mixer. Let it cream probably 3 or 4 minutes. We'll see how it goes. So it has been mixing now for about 3 minutes, maybe 4. And you want it good and thick like that, but creamy. Like that. And we got to thin it down to make a glaze. So we're going to put about a tablespoon of milk at the time in there. I'm going to start off with about 2 tablespoons. You're going to do this to get it to the consistency that you want. Remember, a glaze is pourable, so you don't want it to be really thick. You want it more like of a honey consistency. Stop and scrape down your mixer. Mine's still a little thick, so I'm going to go ahead and add me in another tablespoon of milk. How much milk it takes can depend on the humidity. If you have lots of humidity, it's going to take less milk. If you have less humidity, it's going to take more milk, because that powdered sugar absorbs the humidity that's in the air. All right, we're going to stop it, and we're going to, one more time, scrape your bowl. And now I'm just going to let it mix until all the lumps are out of it. Because as you can see, that's about the consistency of honey. All right, folks, we're done. That's all there is to that. Now we're waiting on our cake to bake. Okay, so the cake is cool now. We're going to take that glaze that we made earlier and we're going to spoon it over the top. And try not to make a mess. We finished putting the glaze on the cake. Turn around, make sure we have it all on there. Then we get our pecans. Some of my family likes pecans, some of them don't. So I usually go half and half. That way everyone's happy. And there you have it. That's all there is to it. Tunnel of love